So here's a couple of chat conversations, one in ChatGPT, one in Claude, both of which I'm doing coding. In this case, I'm using my coding GPT. In Claude, I'm using a coding assistant project. They both basically are the same thing. And in ChatGPT, I ask it to make a dialog box with a button that causes all the SVG elements in the document to spin and also get larger while they're spinning. And you'll see it working in a minute, but I just wanted to show you it created this. It used my library. It used my approach that's described in the GPT. Same thing with Claude. This is a more sophisticated one where I'm actually building also using SVG, but I'm building a user interface component that I use that you're going to see in a second. So notice that it links to this sniplets bookmarklet. That is this. It says sniplets, and if I click it, it puts these up there. It's not really useful on this page, but it is useful on either the ChatGPT page or the Claude page. Notice it put these things. It also did this on the code blocks. These are useful. I can enable or disable that. I can edit it. I can disable the ones above it, which is pretty handy when you get a whole bunch of them. And it also works in Claude too, as well. And it will stay as long as I'm on the site, even if I move to different conversations. These will stay there, and it will always find when there's a new code block. As they get added, it will add these things to them. Now, if I, let's run this thing in Claude, I can do various things. I can make a sniplet, as I call it, which is a bookmarklet. Do something, and I can add it to the toolbar up here if I want, but we're not going to do that right now. That's a little more awkward. That's slightly more permanent. I can also save it, and it will go to a file as an HTML file. What's really interesting though is I can just run it, and I'm just going to click on run, and this brings up, I told it to make a dialog box. I told it to, you notice this is the same SVG here, but here it's in simpler form, and I wanted to be able to make it into a nice clean little object. I passed in the SVG code for just a simple SVG with 4 paths in it, and then I wanted it to turn it into this where it's actually dynamic, and I can do such things as set the paths. The paths I think are in the wrong order, I guess. That's why that one was path 1, but I can turn on a shadow. I can set path 3. Let's see. Okay, so anyways, it works. It does what I want it to, and it did it just by clicking on the run button. Problem is, ChatGPT, if I click on the run button, it's not able to run code within the website. So I had to, because of, whatever, it used to be possible, but they've implemented something that makes it not possible. So what I've done is I'm now using an extension, and my extension does a whole bunch of other things, but one of the really handy things it does is if I click run, it added this little green one here. It will always just overwrite the existing green one if it already exists, but it'll create it if it doesn't. And if I click that, it will run the code. Now this is a simpler one. It just rotates all the SVGs. It does a little animation. You will notice that if I, let's say I run this on YouTube, it'll do the same thing. That's a bookmarklet. I can also do it, if I say do something, and I go here and I say do something, that's the one created in Claude. Still works, just like the old one. And, but the cool thing is that I figured out a solution to making it so it's really quick to run it in ChatGPT without having to create a bookmarklet and save it and worry about that. It just kind of automatically does it. I do have to click the run button, but that's not necessary. I'm going to be able to do it without clicking the run button. It will automatically just notice when the code is changed, and it will only do it if the code is valid in the sense that it's syntactically correct. So if it's missing part of it, say as it's as it's drawing it, rendering it, whatever, it won't add it until it's correct. And it will, if it's incorrect, it will just turn this gray. But I haven't done that yet. But the point is, I can very easily streamline development right here in the site. And that works. I'm pretty happy just with this thing where the extension, because the extension can't run code in websites, but bookmarklets can. Bookmarklets have special privileges that nothing else really has. And that's pretty cool.